This is Shawn of ShawnConrad.com. But you might know me as the rapper voice on the theme song of One Piece. I've gotten so many messages about the rap that I did on One Piece, and I didn't really understand why I was getting these messages. People were coming to my other YouTube videos saying that they came here because they saw One Piece and they're familiar with the rap, and that's how they got to this video. And I was like, really? As time went on, I was like, okay, so maybe One Piece got really big because I did the rap for that show, and that show was acquired from, I believe, Japan, and 4Kids did it here in the US. So we rewrote all the episodes and turned it into English episodes, and then a theme song had to be made and all this stuff. Because we were doing all these shows, when One Piece came in, it wasn't like really high on my big blow up radar. Like, this thing's gonna blow. Basically what happened is the show came in. We have this show called One Piece that we're gonna start working on, and shows were coming in. And I was doing the sound with other engineers for all of these shows, the post-production sound, recording all of the actors. And every now and again I do like a villain voice, or I jump in and be an incidental character on one of the shows. 4Kids knew that I rapped. The reason why they knew that I used to rap was because I was working on this gospel hip hop album at the time called Heaven Yeah. And I was really experimenting. This had to be around 2003. That's when I was experimenting with gospel music, using the platform of hip hop to bring younger people to the church. I was experimenting with all of that. And 4Kids, because I was an audio engineer at 4Kids, they were like, hey, if you want to work on your own stuff, you could work on some of that stuff in here when you're not working on any of the shows. I recorded my songs at my home studio, but then I mixed the songs at 4Kids. And because they had all the Pro Tools plugins and everything like that we were using on the shows, I was working on a lot of the songs, finishing them up at 4Kids. So there was a few people around who knew that I rapped, but they didn't really know the whole story. They knew me as, Shawn's working on this gospel hip hop thing. The part they didn't know was that way before 4Kids, before I joined 4Kids in around August 2001, I used to work at Soundtrack, and I was doing the post-production sound there too. This was after a rap career. I already did music with Jay-Z and Original Flavor on Many Styles. I already rapped with the Notorious B.I.G. And somewhere around 95, 96, I was like, well, I'm famous, but I'm not really making any money. And I'm gonna learn how to do this audio engineering so I can mix my own songs and engineer my own songs. That took me to Soundtrack, and next thing you know, I'm doing post-production sound for all these Def Jam records and Wu-Tang records, and I'm taking out the curses and putting the sound effects in for the radio versions. So I stayed at Soundtrack for a while, and then after Soundtrack, I ended up at 4Kids, an interview that I really did not want to go to because I didn't really feel like working on cartoon shows, especially shows I never heard of. And they were talking about some show they were getting ready to get called Yugi, no one could pronounce it. It was Yu-Gi-Oh! So I went to the interview anyway, got the job, and then started getting really serious about doing post-production sound for 4Kids. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Blew up, and then we started doing these other shows. Pokemon was blowing up. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles blowing up. And I'm doing the sound for a lot of these shows. So back to One Piece, they talked about doing this theme song for One Piece. And I guess because I was doing this gospel hip-hop stuff and they heard me, they were like, we should get Shawn to rap on the theme song for One Piece. So someone wrote some lyrics They showed me what the lyrics were, and they spoke the rap lyrics to me. They spoke them to me, right? We find out, blah, blah, blah. There's a treasure, pirate. They were just words. And they were like, hey, can you help us with the rap? I've been blessed, and I thank God, I've been blessed with a gift of taking somebody's idea, right? Whether it's for kids or it's for a soda company. I did raps for a Coca-Cola radio commercial. But I have this knack for taking somebody's lyrics, even though they may not be able to rap them to me. I can take those lyrics and make them sound cool without getting too complicated. Because when I used to rap back in the day, I mean, I can get pretty complicated with lyrics, okay? And that was because the rappers I grew up with, you know, competition was high. Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One, De La Soul, you know, competition was high. So I had to make sure my lyrical skills were very diverse. So, you know, as some of you may know, some of my lyrical abilities and lyrical compositions can be very complicated and involved. Listen to Many Styles, me, Original Flavor, and Jay-Z. It can be very involved.
Edit it out, my crew's name. Mira, it's Freshco. I'm super like Shazam. Allergic to action. I'm ripping a mic in a way that it can't be touching. I'm in, I'm wetting the panties. Look at the man who's wrecking his damn. Got to get some air fresh. Original, favorable affection.
But I wanted to make sure for One Piece, I satisfied this company for kids. I wanted to make sure that when I was done with taking these words that were on this page and making it much more cooler, I wanted to make sure they weren't like, oh my gosh, who's gonna understand this? So that's what I did. I just said, I got it. I got it. They said, okay, it would be great if you could come up with something, and you know, we'll once you're done, we'll record you, and you know, we'll talk about other stuff later. So I started taking these words that were okay, but I knew what they wanted to get across, and I started to write out how I would do it in a cool way. So the challenge was to take these words on this page. They had a good concept, but it just needed to be cool, and the rap needed to sound up to date and cool so no one can challenge it, you know? So basically I wanted it to be big. That's where the yo, you know, like that's where that comes in, and it's like the beat drops and you hear the beat and you can just coast on it. So I was like, I'm gonna coast on this beat. I'm not gonna rap too fast. I'm just gonna flow, right? So that's where those first bars came in. You know, here's how the story goes. We find out, and the next written line talked about a treasure, right? So I was like, okay, you know, how can I make this sound cool? Here's how the story goes. We find out about a treasure in the Grand Line. There's no doubt, right? Treasure in the Grand Line. That's the words that were there. But how do I make that flow? Here's how the story goes. We find out about a treasure in the Grand Line. There's no doubt. You know, so it's like, okay, cool. I got the first two lines, right? I was able to do and get across what they wanted to get across to the listener, but I was able to do it in a smooth way, in a cool way. And then it was the pirate's eyes something, you know, and then the next line was like, he's gonna be king, right? So, you know, it might have said, you know, the pirate something or ring or something, and, you know, gonna be king. And I was just like, okay, there's a better way to do this, right? So you start coming up with lyrics, and this is what I've been doing since, oh my God, since I was a young teenager, right? This is how I won the World Championship Rap Contest. This is my lane. So I was like, what an opportunity. And then the next line, you know, you want to make sure that flow is smooth, right? You know, again, not too complicated, but easy to repeat, catchy, right? So that was the line. The pirate whose eyes on it, he'll sing. I'll be king of the pirates. I'm gonna be king, right? So it's like those 4 bars came together like that, right? And I was like, okay, I'm still not gonna let them hear what I have. I know it's gonna be dope. Like, let me finish the whole thing, right? And then in the middle of the theme song, it was like Monkey D Luffy, right? And I looked at that, and they were like, yeah, you know, like say Monkey D Luffy. And I was like, okay, but that has to be cool, you know, like, so that's why it has attitude. That's Monkey D Luffy, you know? And I was like, this is no one in the rap world will be like, oh man, that was the worst thing I ever heard, right? Like, that was my goal. Like, okay, he made it fit this show. That was my goal. And it wasn't like, oh, you know, like, that's not good enough to go against Big Daddy Kane, right? It was for this show. And I wanted to make sure it fit this show, and it was something that would be catchy and have pop. The next few lines was, you know, Zolo, he's a samurai who's such and such. You know, I'm reading these words and I'm like, okay, you know. So I was just like, you know, his name's Zolo and he's a samurai, you know, like samurai. And then I was like, okay, something has to rhyme with that. The next line after samurai, you know, I was like, okay, we have to keep getting better, right? Like, that's my MO, right? I start off like on this medium flow, and then it gets better. It keeps getting better. So it was like, his name's Zolo and he's a samurai, and the L-A-D-Y, Nami's not shy, right? L-A-D-Y, like spelling things out, right? While you rap, like that was something that, you know, I was also known for because of my song We Don't Play with DJ Miz. You know, I was like,
I am the F to the R to the E to the S to the H to the C to the O.
Right? Like that was a thing, you know? So I wanted to make sure I got a little bit of that in this theme rap. I think about patterns, and a long time ago I used to think about drum patterns, right? Any drum pattern I hear, I can do that with syllables and with words, right? So that's how I had different flows, what they would call flows.
Unway for the snow. It's that guy from the noise Freshco. I hit the scoop. Uh-oh. Where he at? Look, even the depths of the jungle. There he goes.
I think about the line that's next, right? Not the first bar. So I knew I had to say something about Chopper, you know, doing his doctor thing, right? Because that's what the word said. Chopper's doing his doctor thing or whatever. In those last 4 bars, when I was like, his name's Zolo and he's a samurai, and the L-A-D-Y, Nami's not shy. Before I even wrote Usopp's doing that marksman thing, I thought about, how am I ending this with a bang? I thought first about Sanji's cooking, Chopper's doctoring. I thought that would be a great way to go out. So now you go back to the bar before that, and what will lead that in? That's how my mind works, right? And that's how it worked for this theme song. So I was like, Usopp's doing his marksman thing. Because the words on the paper said, Usopp's a marksman. That's what I had to work with, right? And you know, I don't want to belittle the words that I was given, right? There was some type of rhyming words put together, but I had to shape this so it would be the theme rap that you hear now, that you've been hearing for years. And that's putting all of these things in that I'm describing to you, right? There were hints of what they wanted, but I had to take that and make it cool. And that's what I did with this theme rap. And I really didn't know how far this show went. I worked on a few episodes, but there were so many episodes of shows for 4 kids that I was doing post-production sound for. I really was unable to keep track of how well One Piece was doing and how long it was lasting, right? So going back to getting these messages, oh, you know, I found your video from a One Piece video I was watching. Didn't make any sense to me. And then I got emails about people wanting to interview me about the One Piece rap. And I'm like, really? And then I look more closely online and I see, you know, the views and and what this meant to people. You know, people emailing me saying they grew up on this theme song and this show, and the rap made them get into hip hop, and I'm like so honored and so grateful. So I figured I had to do this video. I had to do this video to give all of the fans insight into how this was created. The one thing I would say is kind of like Monday morning quarterback, and I kind of had a feeling about this, but after I did the rap, we talked about, well, what's the split gonna be? And I thought that the split would be more of an even split, you know, and I'm trying not to get all into the details to spread everybody's business out there, but it wasn't near an even split. I did what I did, but, you know, the powers that be still were like, you know, we came up with it, you know, so we'll give you this for turning it into, you know, a cool rap. And that's the one thing I regret till this day. I should have been more forceful, and spent more time, you know, negotiating what I was deserved for creating this theme song, this theme rap, not the theme song. I did not create the theme song, but I definitely rewrote these words into the rap that you hear and know and love. And I think, you know, I probably should have got way more of a percentage cut than I ended up getting, which is one of the reasons why I didn't even realize how popular this show had gotten and my rap had gotten around the world. So I'll leave that there. That's how the One Piece rap came about. That's the situation I was in. That's how I got from being Freshco, the rapper on Tommy Boy, to winning the world championship, to meeting Miz, doing We Don't Play, to rapping with Jay-Z and rapping with Biggie, ending up at 4Kids Entertainment because I thought, you know, rap had an ending to it. You know, everybody wasn't living in mansions and buying cars and all this stuff. You know, I thought it had an ending, and I got into audio engineering, and I ended up working on all these shows, you know, South Park, King of the Hill. I used to work with Brittany Murphy, and I got to work with Will Ferrell. I've said this, you know, many times, and I got into voiceover work, working on all these cartoon shows, and, you know, that was the beginning of a lot of different things outside of hip hop, outside of rap for me and my career. So I'm very grateful, and that's the whole story. That's how it happened. So no one else can tell you how the One Piece theme rap came about, because you heard it from me, Shawn Freshco Conrad. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more inside scoop stories about hip hop and rapping on theme songs for cartoon shows and everything else that has happened in my career and that I continue to pursue with acting and post-production and voiceover work. This is Shawn Conrad, and here's how the story goes. We find out